Baseball for the Rangers back on your home of the Rangers, Texas 105 through the Fan. Tomorrow evening, they'll start a 3-game set with the Orioles, and that's you're on and running. Like, you're off and running in that instance. You're currently 4 games behind the Astros, 5 games behind the Mariners. We've had conversations about will they sell, won't they sell, and answering those questions and more, I think all starts with these next 10 games, doesn't it, Mike?
It really does. I look at the Rangers, and Josh Smith said it with Leslie McCaslin on the post-game interview, last game of the first half of the season until you get to the All-Star break, and said they knew that Astros series, they didn't want to admit it, they weren't going to say it, but then he said it. He's like, look, we know. We're not stupid. We do lie to you to make sure that it doesn't sound like, we're putting more importance on this game than there should be, but we knew that there is more importance on this series. And we didn't want to let you guys know until the series was over and we won the series that we knew that we needed to probably win this series so that Chris Young and the Texas Rangers front office meeting during the All-Star break didn't go, this team just isn't going to do it.
Yeah.
So after beating the Astros in that series, at least Josh Smith and the players felt like they did enough that the conversations might be stopped, or at least the rumors would be stopped on what the Rangers would be doing selling-wise in the second half of the season until you get to July 30th is the trade deadline. So at least for right now, those conversations are on hold on which way the Rangers are going to go. And that's why, Reggie, this first 10-game stretch of the season, it's 7 home games and 3 road games. The Rangers really need to play well to make sure that this team stays together.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was looking at Fangraphs. Fangraphs, fantastic website when it comes to baseball analytics and all sorts. You can find a number for everything. And just looking at the projections for the rest of the season and like the possibility of making the playoffs, the Astros have the best chance in the AL West at 58%. Mariners somehow, or well, not somehow, because I guess maybe wild card considerations, even though you look at the ways that this division stacks up against the rest of them, and I'm like, are you going to have a wild card out of this division at all? But they are at 57% chance of making the playoffs. And your Texas Rangers, as currently sitting 46-50, have an 11.4% chance of making the playoffs.
Which isn't good.
No, I wouldn't say that that's good at all.
That's why Baltimore, like I was talking about earlier, the people are calling me like, hey, we want to talk about this series coming up, and we want to talk about which Rangers you guys are trading.
Yeah.
And they were surprised when I said, I don't think the Rangers, as of today, are willing to trade you guys Eovaldi or Scherzer or Michael Lorenzen. Those were people they were interested in.
So there's basically just those numbers. And I think, what did we figure out in the break here? That if the Rangers in this 10-game stretch go 7-3,
I think it's very doable to go 7-3, and they kind of need to go 7-3 to make this rest of the season doable to make the playoffs. Baltimore is a very good team. They did not play well going into the All-Star break.
3-7 in their final 10,
but they're a great team. They're the best to me. If they're healthy, they're the best team in the American League, and I haven't seen the schedule set up yet for who you're facing, as in the pitchers you're facing. But most likely, you will see Saturday or Sunday, you're going to see Corbin Burns, who started the All-Star game. Most likely on Friday or Saturday, you're going to see Grayson Rodriguez, who is a borderline all-star pitcher and a rising star in baseball. You're going to be facing their 2 best pitchers in this series. I don't know what days yet they're going to pitch, but most likely you will be seeing those guys. Going to be very difficult to win this series. But the Rangers need to win at least 1 in that series. Then you play the Chicago White Sox. You have to win 3 of 4, if not all 4. They're horrible. Crochet's an awesome pitcher.
But he might not be there by the time you get there. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be, going to take some time because you're going to have to overwhelm them. Mm-hmm. They have a super stud that you're going to have to trade 3 premium prospects to get. So I hear what you're saying. And it was interesting. They protected Garrett Crochet, his last start before the All-Star break. And it wasn't Sunday so he could pitch an inning. It was Friday that they pitched him 2 innings and took him out of the game. 2 innings, I believe 1 hit, no runs, 4 strikeouts. And they're like, that's good, you're out of the game. So they are, to your point, they are almost protecting him to be like, we want to keep him as tradable as possible and not push him anymore. So even if you face Crochet, maybe he's only pushed to go 5 innings. And they're like, that's enough, because if we're in heavy trade rumors and somebody's willing us to give us the world for him, we do not want to push him into a 6th or 7th inning. So you might have an advantage there. So let's just say you win 3 out of 4 against Chicago. Toronto's not a good team this year, and they're probably going to be very distracted July 26th through the 28th in Toronto on all the rumors on where their players are going if they haven't gone anywhere. So you need to win that series. At this point, you can't really give up series against teams like Chicago or Toronto. You've put yourself in a hole that you got to dig yourself out of. And so teams like Chicago and Toronto, you have to win those series. So if you win 2 out of 3 in Toronto, you win 3 out of 4 against Chicago, you would need to win 2 out of 3 against Baltimore, or you just sweep one of those other 2 teams you're facing, and that puts you at 7-3. If you go 7-3 to start the second half, that puts you at 53-53.
500.
You're at 500 with just a little bit under 60 games to go. Let's just start playing the math game. Players don't do this. I don't know if general managers and owners do this. I think they do it. I almost feel like
with the amount of numbers that we have in the game,
owners don't, I guess, have to if they don't care.
Yeah,
but if they're talking about whatever it is, selling players or recouping money or whatever it is that owners talk about. If I get to 53-53, I don't think 85 wins is going to win this division, but it could. 85-77 probably isn't enough, but it could. So that's my break number of, can we get to 85 wins? If we get to 85 wins, there's a small possibility we either win the division or small possibility we get the last playoff spot. That is going 32-24 in the last 56 games.
That's after going
7-3. If you get to 53-53, which you need to be, I'll tell you what. Anything less than 7-3, Texas Ranger players, you open yourself up to getting traded to other teams, and you guys don't even try for a playoff spot. So 7-3, you can't win 7 games tomorrow. You can only win 1 game tomorrow. So as a player, you can't really think of there's a 10-game stretch that we need to go 7-3. I can only play Friday night.
Sure.
So I love doing sports talk radio. Being a general manager, you do this. But you can only take 1 game at a time and give it a win or a loss.
Right.
But they need to go 7-3 in the first 10 games of this. If not, you open yourself up to we're trading players, we are not buying players, and we're not holding players. So 7-3, you get to 53-53. 32-24 gets you to 85 wins and gives you the opportunity to make the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, this team can do damage, because that would mean you just start doing the math and you start going, all right, if I go 7-3 plus 32-24, I am now at 39-27, my last approximately 60 games in the season. That's a good team going into the playoffs. Now, the Rangers were the opposite. Last year, they actually were not a good team going into the playoffs and won the World Series. But if I look at it this way, 88 games will win this division. I do not think a team will get to 88 or more wins. Maybe one does. So one team I think will. I guess I need to point this out. I think one team could get to 88 wins in this division. If I go 35-21 after going 7-3, that gets me to the magic number of 88, and I've made the playoffs. So those are kind of the ways to do it. And then you can go back to FanGraphs, Reggie. I think this is very important to go back to FanGraphs and tell them where Seattle is in strength of schedule, where Houston is in strength of schedule, and where Texas is in strength of schedule.
Yeah, and I found this to be really interesting, because if you're looking at the strength of schedule of the remaining games, if I'm reading this correctly, the Mariners, the remaining games, they're playing an average of 501 when it comes to teams that they're playing against. So just above average for the remainder of the schedule.
Which is 14th hardest schedule. So right in the middle of the pack, right? They're playing about a 500 schedule, which that makes sense. 14th hardest schedule.
Yes, sir. The Astros, the remaining schedule, or the strength of schedule for their remaining schedule, 499. So just below average. And then your Texas Rangers,
is 19th hardest schedule. So that's a favorable thing for them. Not super favorable, but favorable.
And then the Rangers is tied for the third easiest schedule in the AL West with the Angels, 496. is the strength of schedule of the remaining schedule.
Which that is the 23rd hardest schedule, or if you want to look at it the other way, the 8th easiest schedule in Major League Baseball. Now, that being said, it's going to be interesting because that's the rest of the season. But do you put yourself in such a non-confident situation that the easy part of the schedule, you've already got yourself 10 games back of a playoff spot, which is really tough to come back from? Because after the 10 games, after that, Baltimore, very tough. Chicago White Sox and Toronto Blue Jays, a lot easier teams to beat.
Those are the next 10.
Yes. Now you go to at St. Louis. They're a team playing above 500. Boston at home, very good team, having a good season. They are the second wild card team or third wild card team right now with Minnesota. It's New York is the number one wild card team, and then I know that they're very close. Boston and Minnesota are very close in record right now, so that's a good team. Then you play home against Houston. Very important series that you need to win the tiebreaker. Win that series, you win the series overall. You win that tiebreaker. Then you go at New York, at Boston. Woo, that's tough. Then you come home. I just told you Minnesota's in the playoffs. That's tough. Pittsburgh, I think that it'll
get a breather.
Interesting, but they're 500 right now.
Huh.
They're better than I thought. I thought they were more of a Rangers record. They are, I believe, 48-48 right now at the All-Star break.
And if you're players on the team, I imagine you want to be doing the reverse choppy. Choppy is hoping that you see Skeens somewhere in that.
Yeah.
If you're the Rangers, you're like, move me away from that dude because that makes the task at hand just that much more difficult.
Then you're at Cleveland, one of the best records in all baseball. So after that 10-game stretch, the teams that you play that are under 500, after you play Toronto, I can't name you a team. Literally from July 29th through August 25th, you do not play a team under 500
for a month.
It doesn't make sense when we just said Rangers have the 8th easiest schedule the rest of the way. That's based off of how crappy Chicago is, and you haven't played them yet. And then at the end of the year, in September, you get Oakland for 6 games. You get the Angels for 6 games. Arizona's not a very good team this year. They could turn it around, but they're not a very good team this year. You get Toronto at home in September. So there's a lot of favorable matchups in September and to start this off. But in between, from July 29th through August 25th, as of today, you do not play a team under 500.
And so this next 10 games, it's important to get yourself in position, but you also got to get yourself going as a team.
Yes, because you want to play well against those guys.
Yeah, you're playing against what looks like a gauntlet for your schedule. Strength of schedule be damned. So, I mean, look, it's going to be super important. It starts tomorrow evening.
Yes.
We don't necessarily, at least I haven't seen anything as of yet about who the pitchers are.
Today's workout, so I'm assuming today we will get the announcement on who the Friday, Saturday, Sunday pitchers are for both teams.